trail that leads to the creek.
Of destiny changing, it's basically the technology of the gods. Now, another thing is that, as you know, Cliff, and as I've understood it, you are from military background, your father or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
So born into it, yes.
Yeah. So you know that world is always decades ahead of the white world. Now, Reagan, I think, was the first started to agitate for a Star Wars program. And that was when in the early 80s?
Yeah.
So you should assume that he wouldn't have clearing to do that if they weren't ready to launch some. Yeah. So that means that they've had about 30 years to tweak this stuff wherever.
And I know that this stuff exists because my father's role in the military brought him very close to it many times. So my father did 3 tours in the Vietnam War. And in his second tour, he was advanced enough in rank, and he was there, I think, 11 or 12 months. And when he was in country at that point, he's always been a field officer and came up in the military through the Korean War in a battlefield commission. And so, the military likes guys like him, and they let him be in charge of a couple of different projects. One of the projects that he was in charge of at the time was this technology that they introduced into Vietnam that almost brought the war to a standstill. Wow. And this technology was a night vision goggle. But it's not night vision as we have it now, okay? Because the night vision goggle was done in the red spectrum. And so when my father came back from Vietnam...
You mean infrared or...
No, I'll explain.
Ordinary red.
Oh, ordinary red, okay. So instead of seeing... When you look at a night vision goggles now, you see green. Everything is translated into green for you. And human eye sees green, more colors, shades of green than any other color. It's part of our evolution, our need to find food.
So that's clever then.
Correct. But see, here's the thing. It started off as red. And so the night vision goggles were introduced to helicopter pilots and gunnery people in Vietnam. And I won't hesitate as to I won't guess as to which year it was that they introduced them. But my father was part of this initial experiment with the troops that he commanded. And it was a disaster because the image was presented in red pixels, not green. And because of the technology being used at that time, it created very interesting effects that they could not deal with. So you had some officers that were part of this cadre, or this cohort of other officers that were all testing these new technologies for the military that had their troops always use these goggles. And those units became self-destructive. They went down in a horrid situation. My father was extremely practical, didn't want to see himself get destroyed in any way, wanted to return and get out. So as soon as he saw what was going on with these goggles, he had his people take them off. And he actually got praise from the military for the way that he dealt with all of this. But the effect was this. A gunner in a helicopter would have no problem using these goggles, and only everything is showing up as a sort of a faint reddish image, and it was true night vision the way we have it now, and even a greater depth, because you could also flip it and get an extra layer that was sort of yellowish that would be heat signatures as well, and they don't have those combined anymore in these goggles. Anyway, the goggles that were presented to the gunners, and my father tells the story of the very first time they're out with them, and they're flying along, and he's in the front of the helicopter with the pilot, and all of a sudden, in a very peaceful area, not anything going on at all, the gunner in his on the starboard side of his helicopter starts firing wildly at their height, not at anything on the ground, but at an area that he was shooting at, and basically causing other helicopters in their little flotilla to have to react. And my father goes on back to the gunner, basically demanding, "What the hell, dude? What are you shooting at?" And the kid is just sweating profusely, and his eyes are just dilated beyond belief. And my dad thought he was dealing with another heroin addict, but this was before it had gotten really bad in Vietnam, and the kid was not exhibiting those kind of symptoms. He was reacting to what he had seen, and he's describing to my father that he was shooting at these basically flying demons that were flying alongside the helicopter. And he knew they were coming to get him because they were gesturing at him and they could see him. And so he reacted and he started shooting his Bren gun, big 50 caliber slugs at these things, right? And they were flying along right next to the helicopter, so he's firing out directly from the helicopter, and there are other helicopters in the vicinity, so it caused all kinds of problems. And this goes on repeatedly, week after week after week. Every time they try and use these night vision goggles, at some point they encounter monsters, true monsters. Now, officers had been told not to wear these.
Just so you all know that if I have these goggles, I've already studied this shit. So I know no fear, make them go away. And I can kick them out of our neighborhood. That's why I need these goggles.
Okay, the pilots were told not to wear them. But my dad put them on to see what the hell was going on, and to hear him describe it, it was like being in the worst kind of a demonic gothic hell.
Jeez.
That you'd look out at the tops of trees and you'd see.
If it wasn't for Sarah, I wouldn't be able to say, hey, I live in a demonic freaking neighborhood. You know, when she had those posters out in a fentanyl neighborhood to draw your fentanyl demons and you can win $500 or your fentanyl fallen angels. She just called them angels. I thought, oh, fuck, I've seen hive mind mentality. That's demonic, you know? And it was always for bad, not for good. So these glasses would be great for this neighborhood. It really would. And because I watch a lot of scary movies, I'm desensitized. I'm not going to freak like that young kid. Maybe if I was his age, but now, no, I will kick them out of the fucking neighborhood.
These creatures with big wings and claws and everything come flying off at the tops of the trees, but you take the goggles off and there's not even a disturbance in the fog above the canopy of the trees, right?
They're perceiving into an aspect of consciousness.
Correct.
Another dimension.
And it was tied to the red image.
Now, what I think is happening is the other dimension actually overlays our dimension, so a lot of us see things from the other dimension. Most people now have had some kind of supernatural experience, of some kind. I certainly have, even down here. Quite a few. Not anymore. I don't get harassed by anything because, honestly, the last time they harassed me, I called them fucktards and got mad, and now nothing harasses me from the other side. I felt a little bit bad because, I was living in a freaking heroin shelter and I've never been a heroin addict and I hate heroin, because it makes people look horrible, and it ruins their fucking life. But it was haunted. There was shadow people all over that fucking thing. But anyway, once I called it a fucktard, it left me alone. And it would bother the little dog I babysat. It would be barking at air, And I knew it was presenting itself to the poor little cockapoo, and he was getting upset. So I still want these glasses. Now they're trying to scare me, but fuck that shit.
As soon as they went to green, all of this kind of stuff disappeared.
Of course. And we don't have time.
Yeah, I know.
Me studying Pythagoreanism and vibrations, we could speak a lot about this, but let's not even go there. But one question: are these connected to the modern night vision goggles people used to see UFOs?
Correct.
Third generation or whatever they're called. Is this the same technology?
It's the same technology. It's just that the translation is done through a different phase alignment, and we're not seeing everything that the goggles could show you.
And they don't connect it to heat signatures either, right? Organic.
They don't do that, and then they also don't do it with a red display. Now, the red aspect of it is interesting because the green display comes from electrons, not photons, okay? And it comes from an electron transmission. Presumably, they were still doing electron transmission. They were just turning it into a red filter.
That keeps it more material.
Exactly. And at this stage, though, in Vietnam, when they introduced them, it was brief. It lasted, the whole project lasted about 60 days, and then it was all canceled. And the people that...
Of course, it was so impractical.
Correct. I mean, your flotillas shooting at each other, right?
Suddenly they had a new enemy.
Right,
Don't let them know.
When the bullets didn't bother. Right.
Please say you inherited
I'm sorry.
one of these goggles from your father.
No.
Those are the goggles I
no,
want.
that kind of stuff never happened. My dad was at a level of the military where we had to be very concerned because he used to do CID, internal criminal kind of investigations, right?
Yeah.
And so his clearances and stuff were always checked. So he was by the book kind of a fellow insofar as the military was concerned at that level. I mean, we had our phones tapped.
So I found this not on Google, but on DuckDuckGo. See if I can find it. DuckDuckGo. Oh, did I find it here? No, I thought I found it on DuckDuckGo, and then it brought me here. That's what happened. Reddit.